To Linville Team Partners' first roundtable discussion. We're really excited about this. This is going to be the first in a series that we're rolling out every other week for several weeks to come with different topics every other week. Our next one will be on May 6th at 2 p.m. with Simon Burgess, Coleman Team, and likely one more guest. We're waiting to firm that up before we announce it. You can find out more information about these roundtable discussions through our social media outlets, LinkedIn, Facebook, our blog, which is blog.ltpcommercial.com. We've had an incredible turnout for this. We're actually totally blown away. We've had over 225 people register as of about 20 minutes ago. I'm not sure what we're up to now, but there's going to be some great information on this call that I know everyone is excited to hear from our three guests. Some quick notes for the call and format so everybody knows. The call is being recorded. You will get an email of the recording once we end this webinar. We will also post that to our blog and ways to get to it through our social media outlet. The first 30 minutes are going to be just a casual conversation with our three guests. The second half or 30 minutes will be a Q&A session. At the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a Q&A icon. You can ask questions. Nick is going to moderate the Q&A session. You can ask questions as early as now, or you can wait until later in the call to ask those questions. We've disabled the chat function, so the only way to ask questions will be through the Q&A. If you ask a question, please let us know if the question is directed at one of our three guests, so we'll know who to ask that question of. So, moving on. Quick introduction for folks, three of our guests that really need no introduction, but Mayor Alan Joins from the city of Winston-Salem here, Mark Owens, President and CEO of Greater Winston-Salem, Inc., and Jason Thiel with the Downtown Partnership in Winston-Salem, and my co-host, one of my business partners at Linville Team, Nick Gonzalez. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your busy schedules. I know you've got a ton going on, and we're honored that you jumped on this call with us. So, Mayor, let's start with you if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'm sure you feel like you've got the weight of this city on your shoulders more than maybe you ever have in your career. What has life looked like for you over the last 30 to 60 days?
It's been an interesting time, no question. We do a weekly conference call with the other big city mayors, and most of them have said they're working the hardest now that they ever have. And Steve Schewel, the mayor of Durham, was just saying he has felt so much weight, as you put it, Aubrey. It is there, and what I've tried to do is to find a balance between protecting the safety of our citizens and trying to figure a way to lessen the impact on the economy as much as we can, and begin plans to try to begin reopening the economy, but at the same time, listening to our healthcare professionals and trying to weigh all that. So sometimes you feel like you need the wisdom of Solomon to make those kind of decisions, but it's been good. I've just been so pleased with the response of our citizens, by our businesses, and others, and that's, I think, one reason that our numbers have been relatively good compared to some other areas of our state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a bit of a ghost town to some degree in all four corners of the city and the county, and that's a good thing, in my opinion, to keep everyone safe. Tell me a little bit about the Mask Our City program and kind of how that came together, and where are we with that program and the plan to support the community with that.
Yeah, I think it's just a phenomenal story of the community coming together from all sectors. Dr. Bill Satterwhite, the Chief Wellness Officer over at Wake Forest Health, had an idea of a different type of mask, a different design. Being someone who has worn masks a lot, he knew what to look for and what not to look for. So he designed a mask, and in about, I guess, Mark, like 25 days or so, they came up with a design, developed a prototype. They approached Renfro, which was in the same building. Renfro, a sock manufacturer who we recruited their corporate headquarters here last year, I guess it's the largest stock manufacturer in the country. but they have an innovation office in the innovation quarter. So Dr. Satterwhite and them being in the same building, they were able to make a quick connection. Renfro did a prototype, did some adjustments to it, and then have determined that they can actually produce about 900,000 masks a week once they reach ramp up. We were fortunate that they set aside the first 310,000 of those masks for Winston-Salem. And we announced on Wednesday a Mask Winston-Salem initiative where we really want to give everyone in the city an opportunity to wear a mask or have a mask. And what it does, a mask wearing it by yourself is probably only 50% or so effective at protecting you. But if you're wearing a mask and Mark's wearing a mask and we're together, the chances that either one of us would spread the virus to one or the other is less than 2%. So the fact that we can get everyone wearing a mask around the city for the next 30, 40 days, we should really be able to slam the door on this virus. And we also set aside, Aubrey, 60,000 masks for individuals in our city who are living at or below the poverty level. So we wanted to make sure everyone could have a mask. And we've got a large group of people. Love Out Loud is kind of coordinating that particular part of the effort. They must have 40 different agencies, churches, and others that are distributing the mask.
So for folks that are on this call, what's the easiest way for them to get one of these masks?
Lowe's Foods, beginning tomorrow, Friday, will have a limited supply at their Winston-Salem stores at $2.50 each. Now that is a below market price, and as the project continues on, Renfro will be adjusting that price, and we don't know exactly what it will be, but it was probably going to be in the range of $7 or $8 a mask.
And Mayor, I'll jump in if we're going casual here. Aubrey, maskthecity.com is live as of just about an hour or two ago.
Right.
The website is up, so I would tell people they can go to maskthecity.com to find out some information. A lot of employers also purchase them, so check with your employer to see if they provided them. And then we'll have an opportunity for small businesses that we'll announce soon to take some safety measures and figure out how to get a mask for their employees as well. Hopefully that can be finalized by the end of the week. So we're working on that too, Mayor. Just wanted to throw that in.
All right. And then, as I said, it's just so many facets of the community have come together to make it happen. Mark and the chamber have done a yeoman's job of setting it up for our small businesses and others to make sure we get those masks out. And the city, for instance, we bought 15,000 masks, 10,000 for our front-facing employees, but also 5,000 masks that we're making available to the homeless community and the homeless shelters to make sure those who are vulnerable can have masks as well.
And people shouldn't just go to different nonprofits trying to find these masks. The nonprofits that you mentioned that are getting these masks are likely serving the communities that they're already serving, correct?
That's pretty much it. Yeah, they've got a pretty good strategy for touching these 60,000 individuals we're trying to get the masks to. I think Mark's suggestion of going to the website is probably the best way to get specific information.
Okay, great. Yeah, it'd be really cool if there would be some way that we could collaborate to promote Winston-Salem on these masks that are being made. That would be a neat thing to do. If it's not too late, just throw that out there. But one more question for you, Mayor. This is just something that's been interesting and a topic that's been on my mind. How does the city work in collaboration with the state? I know Roy's going to have his announcement at 3 o'clock today, but do you guys operate somewhat autonomously from them? Do you follow their lead? Like, how does that work behind the scenes, and how will his announcement affect your decision making over the next day?
Yeah, you might recall that the cities actually had to step out ahead of the governor a little bit early on. The governor, to his credit, he's trying to make decisions for a whole state where you have rural areas, urban areas, each one with a different kind of issue. So we were getting tremendous encouragement from our medical community to put something in place. They were telling me, he said, Mayor, if we don't do something, we are very fearful that our system is going to be overwhelmed and we're going to have people dying. We can't provide the level of service. So I stepped out on the 27th of March and put my order in place. The county followed the same way. My order was set to expire on the 16th, and I extended it to May 7th. The governor just, I guess it was 2 days after my order went into place, actually did enter a statewide order. And the way he has described it, Aubrey, is he sees his order as a floor, if you will, for the entire state. But then municipalities can add to that, make it a little more stringent in their particular areas if those conditions merit it. Our order is a little bit stricter than the governor's, but not much. It's very, very similar. We're all referencing the Department of Defense standards in terms of essential businesses and things of that nature. What I'm going to be looking at very soon is, and we can talk about that more a little bit later, but a kind of a get the economy started committee working on things. And it may be that I will probably just pull my order back and just let it run with the governor's order. And of course, we're also very interested in what he's going to be saying about that today.
Sure. All right. Well, those are great. And we'll have plenty more questions for you, Mayor. I'm going to hop over to Mark and ask you a few questions, Mark. Mark, I think most people on this call know you, but I'd like to just give a little bit further introduction. Mark is now the president and CEO of Greater Winston-Salem, Inc., which is the newly merged or formed organization that previously was the Chamber of Commerce and Winston-Salem Business Inc., or WSB, as a lot of people recall. Mark, you've been here since 2017, December of 2017, I recall, when you moved downtown. Tell me, I remember we rebranded the chamber and you came out with #together, and you guys were playing off that a lot. I cannot think of a more appropriate time than now for us to all be using that hashtag and to be living that hashtag and working together to get through this. How are things going with the merger and the transition, and what are you seeing on your end?
Yeah, thanks, Aubrey. Thanks to you and Linville team for having us. You're doing a great job moderating. A lot of times we're on the other side of this, and it's not easy to do virtually. So you guys are doing great. Almost 2.5 years. My wife and I, a 3-month-old, moved downtown. Got to experience downtown living, and this is home. We love it. A lot's been going on, and when we came up with the tagline together, we did a listening tour around, and we realized, as the mayor just talked about, we're one community, we're one city, we're one county. And we wanted to use a charge and charge our community to start thinking about ourselves as one, instead of on different sides of the city or different areas, that we could really come together and really make a big difference. Our community has a history of that all the way back to Winston-Salem, and we wanted to tie into what we're about. Never, ever, ever could have expected it to be something that is so important right now for us more than ever. We're all literally in this together and finding out ways to move forward. But I really been, it's been hard a couple of weeks, as the mayor said in the question, the last 30, 60 days, wide open, definitely different, everybody working from home, trying to figure out new workflows and how to continue moving on and pushing forward and helping as many people stay safe and stay in business as possible. Kudos to our city. Our city and county have been one of the most business-friendly stay-at-home orders in the state, and that's been, very thankful to have that and have a good communication with our healthcare providers at the same time. We did launch Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. officially April 2nd. So in the middle of the pandemic, we rebranded, relaunched the combined entity to be able to help continue to serve our community. Winstonsalem.com was relaunched, continuing to build off the great foundation that WSB had and the chamber has had for years, and to continue to go forward. How is it going? There's not a playbook for launching a new organization virtually when you don't get to see each other, and some of the old signage is still up and new signage going up. But for the most part, I think it's really helped us in this time of challenges to be able to really be one entity, work hard, get the messaging out. We really focused on a couple of things, Aubrey, that I'll hit on real quick. Is number one, existing business right now, trying to help as many of them as possible. And we do that by communicating constantly, trying to digest and understand the CARES Act, the PPP, CARES Act 3.5, which hopefully we'll hear about more this afternoon, maybe from the House. So trying to get that information out and help our businesses, and then continue to look at the recruiting part and see what can we continue to do during this time. But we're excited about where we're going as an organization, but it's been tough. And there's been days where, we're hearing about businesses closing for good. And those are hard days because you get to know these people. People are really struggling. And then you hear some good stories about people donating their time and energy and talent and money to help each other. And then you can get refilled and re-inspired. So it's a little bit about what's been going on
I think one of the greatest value propositions from an economic development perspective for our community is the community and the togetherness. People come to Winston and they feel it. Sometimes they can't put their finger on exactly what it is, but like that is a great place. It just feels good there. And I think a lot of it comes down to the culture that's here in our city and the welcoming sort of vibe that we have towards everyone that comes here. And this hashtag together thing, I think, is just a great play on words. And I hope to continue to see that under this new organization. How do we continue to grow after this? I mean, we've had so much positive momentum. Yes, we've had some setbacks along the years, particularly with BB&T and SunTrust and the tower downtown. But that aside, how do we continue the positive momentum that we have here in this city to continue to grow? And once it's safe to get back to work, how do we position Winston-Salem as a great place to do business in differently maybe than we have done in the past?
That's a great question. And just while you were talking real quick, I'm a big sports fan. I know we have the draft tonight. I know a lot of people have said this quote, but John Wooden said, about sports, adversity doesn't create character, it reveals it. And our community has that character. And we've done this before, not in a pandemic, of course, but in different challenges that we've had. And we do have some challenges. We have a lot of momentum going, a lot of great projects looking. To be honest, a lot of them are still looking. We've had some new ones come in the last 2 weeks, focused on downtown. Jason may hit on here in just a bit, the Nissen building and what that looks like, but specifically had a call with EDPNC this week and talked to them about the BB&T tower that they're going to be leading as part of their consolidation into Truist. That there's not many towers available, so let's look at it as an asset and find ways that we can position ourselves. This may not be maybe a little soon to talk about this, Aubrey, but I'll throw it out there. I mean, a lot of the hot spots in this virus have been major cities. And I think our size is a mid-sized city and one of the best in the country. I think people are going to add quality of life to their decision-making process, maybe a little more than before. We're well positioned. If we can take care of our community, that adds that character that you talked about of being just a place where you can walk down the street and people talk to you, or have unique restaurants, or a great theater right on 4th Street, or all these different things unique. If we can highlight those, I think we're going to make a really strong value proposition going forward. And I think, it's going to change the way maybe some manufacturing and supply chain things work in America. And I think that's something that we've done well in the logistics and processing through the history of this community. And we're excited to try to continue to push forward on that. We've got a good plan. I think as Greater Winston-Salem Inc. gets to fully launch maybe this fall, we didn't get to do the launch that we wanted, obviously, but hopefully we can get that message out and go forward. I think our future, everybody's future is in question a little bit, but I think our future is bright, and our goal is to try to rebound faster and better than anybody else in our region.
Well, that's great. I think everyone on this call would rally behind those efforts. So best of luck with that.
Take us all to do that.
That's right. It sure will. And I think we're all ready for it, ready to get back some sense of normalcy. Just quickly, one more question for you, Mark. I know at one point I saw a document that you shared with me that was sort of what Greater Winston-Salem Inc. has done to be a great resource during this pandemic. Where can people find that document that I saw? It was a great resource, and I think folks need to know about it.
Yeah, it's going up today. We wanted to share with you to prepare for the call. We had it approved morning. At winstonsalem.com, we have a COVID-19 page that we update daily with information. If you don't get our daily emails, we've become a daily email update on everything as it changes so quickly. We have 2 dedicated people just focused on the government affairs side and learning the information as it comes out. And that document you're referencing just kind of gives you a recap of what we've been working on, but also some priorities of where we're going and how to balance both of those things and be transparent about that. It'll be on winstonsalem.com. Hopefully later today. We're working on that right now.
Okay, great. We'll keep an eye out on that. I'm sure it'll be on social media as well, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, Jason, moving on to you with a few questions. Jason, I've been driving through downtown every day just to kind of keep my finger on the pulse and see what's going on. I'm crazy passionate about downtown and continuing that momentum, but what are you seeing on your front? It's quiet downtown, but what is your organization doing during this pandemic and to be a resource to restaurants, retailers, and really any occupiers or owners downtown?
Yeah. So during this time, we've been actively communicating with our downtown businesses about what's going on in the overall realm of what's available, some of the resources that are brought up by Mark, the federal programs. So downtown is small enough. We have a lot of businesses, but it's small enough to where I can talk on the phone directly with businesses directly, and they have specific questions. And so for one of the things that I enjoy doing is talking directly to our business owners. And so I've been talking to a number of them about where they're at, what they're doing. And so it's more of a personalized relationship with the business owners. And if any of them are listening and they would like to talk to me and I haven't talked to you yet, please contact me. And our phone number is 336-354-1500. But that's been a large part of where we're at now. Then one of the other things that we've been doing is coordinating with all of our staff has been developing a list of businesses that's on our website at downtownws.com of all the existing businesses that offer gift certificates. So if you are at home and you want to support a business that might need a cash flow in the downtown area right now, the ones that have gift certificates online that you can purchase are on our website. Ones that have delivery or pickup, it's a constant moving database, and that's been something that we've been backing up with advertising in several outlets. One of the other things that we've been doing is getting ready during the time of the closure, of getting ready for the inevitable time when we're going to have more people walking around. Right now, it's been a great time for our clean team to do a lot of our power washing of sidewalks. During lunch hour, we would never be able to get out and do a power washing in the same place right in the middle of where people would normally be sitting. And so that's something that's been very active, and we've been able to get on a lot of projects such as power washing benches and trash cans, and we're coordinating with the city on hanging flower baskets and landscaping. So constantly keeping downtown clean, removing graffiti. And when we have been wanting to do a deep clean of downtown, and that's what we've been engaged in with our essential contractors, our clean team, who I really want to say how much I appreciate their work, and it's something that we're very proud of them. Some of the other things that we've been doing is very early in the crisis, right about the time when the restaurants were forced to close, and right about when they were making decisions, we knew that some restaurants wanted to change mode, and they had to. And some would close altogether. Some would like to have pickup and drop-off zones for people. And so we asked the city, and the city's really been great with this. And so we worked with them and then communicated with our business owners. And then one person in particular I want to mention is Rod Ring at the city's Department of Transportation, who I think deserves great kudos. He's been helping us with get cones out on the sidewalk. These are normally loading zones or parking spaces that have been dedicated for the pickup and drop off of food for those businesses that wanted to stay open. One of the things that we're talking about now is keeping those open until the restaurants are fully reopened and serving the capacity, whatever that may be. If there is as we are hearing from different sources, it may be phased in. So there may be a limited capacity and for a period of time, and then that may slowly loosen up. And at such point, we would like the on-street spaces to stay open. A lot of the other things have come up during this period of time. We've been talking about things that are important but not relevant to the pandemic, but it's in essence the issues of downtown continue to go on. We've had conversations about trash collection and recycling, which are pretty common, and maintenance of our areas. Right now we're in a full bloom period, so that's something that is grass is growing. These are all things, so maintenance, making sure that we don't lose ground and that we're trying to catch up. In fact, that we're really working strongly. I've spent time with our bike patrol on several occasions during this. We're monitoring downtown with the bike patrol to make everything is maintained and safe downtown, and that has been the case. We've been continuing to work on. The biggest thing is monitoring, really something that Mark and his team has been doing, and we've been leaning on them quite a bit, but then taking the information that we hear from our private resources, talking to bankers, and those are the things that we take the insight that we get on different projects like federal funding from the SBA and other sources and try to decipher and bring that to some answering questions for some of our stakeholders.
Something that's been a concern of mine, Jason, just let me interject there and ask a question. Something that's been a concern of mine through this has been hearing of all these small businesses, particularly restaurants, bars, small retailers that are all over our downtown, hearing them on social media saying that they haven't been able to get through on this SBA loan, PPP loan, EIDL, any of it. And maintaining their working capital through this pandemic is next to impossible. They have, key employees they need to hold on to, utility bills, rent for some. How do those people, how can we provide resources to those people? How do they get them to a point where they can flip the switch on, for lack of better terms, or turn on that engine so that they can serve our community again downtown?
So we've been hearing from the businesses, and the list of things that I talked about earlier, the plan is that we need to be putting downtown in the best place possible for them to reopen. And the resources for us are communicating constantly about what we're hearing from city government or any problems that they're experiencing that we want to try to solve that's within our realm of capacity. So that may be anything from just a specific, and often it is very specific in a dense area of downtown. What will happen is people will call us with a specific problem, and then we will trace them to the origin of their concern. And that could be anywhere from regulatory, service providing, fixing something that's broken. And for us, it is constantly communicating. But for them, they are in the process of just knowing that they have someone to talk to. There are frustrations that go through the conversations about being able to get in. And I think one of the things, it's a really great question, and Mark touched on it later a few minutes ago, but what is the second round of PPP going to be? And without getting into some of the frustrations about getting access and the limited funding and some of the other questions, that's one of the things that we're going to be eager to do, be a conduit of helping people find places where they can hopefully apply for the funds if they would like to, or talk through the pros and cons. Oftentimes that's our biggest asset, is that we are small enough as an area geographically that I can spend time with folks. And I encourage people to call me anytime.
Okay.
And that's probably the biggest asset we can provide them right now.
And Aubrey, can I jump in on the PPP?
Yeah.
Real quick? Just something to talk about real quick. I think I saw it come up Q&A as well, if I'm doing this correctly. I had a conversation with the restaurant, and Jason and the mayor and I have talked about this before too. Some of it, it's our federal government's working as hard as they can, right? Or arguably hard. And one of the things that's challenging is, a lot of our restaurants had one yesterday. They finally received their PPP loan. So the payroll protection program, just to be clear, they received their money that's supposed to be spent on payroll, to keep people employed. Obviously, maybe you can use it for rent, but for forgivable part of it to be used for their employees. Well, they'd already laid off their employees, and their employees actually, make $10 to $14 an hour, maybe high end in a restaurant or hospitality job. They're actually making more than that on unemployment and some of the extra benefits that they're receiving during this time. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. We talk about, the mayor mentioned the reopen. And I think the question talked about it from the hospitality standpoint about taking some time to reopen and restaff. And I know that's been a problem where people can make more if they're receiving some special benefits right now. So we got to think long-term and figure out ways that we can encourage people to get back to work. Hopefully our state, our governor talked about some of that in the unemployment piece for furloughed employees just the other day. But it's something to think about from the business perspective, as Jason and we were talking restaurants, hospitality. It's going to take some time for people to restaff up and be re-prepared to reopen. And I think that's one of the unintended consequences of the relief programs through the CARES Act and PPP that is something to think about. So I think this second round of PPP hopefully will be easier for people to apply. Our banks have a little better handle on what to do and how to do that. And so hopefully that can be the case.
Yeah, Aubrey, let me chime in just a little bit on that as well. I know we had started looking at the creation of a small business special loan fund in terms of helping small businesses get started back up. I heard from a number of particularly small restaurants saying, hey, Mayor, I've been closed and it's going to take me a little while to restock, get my inventory back up to reopen. And I don't have that money, so we might need $5,000 just to restock. So we'd started looking at something like that, and then Mark Owens, to his credit, had already started working on an idea like that in terms of raising some money for a loan fund. And we've kind of pulled back a little bit, but we do have, I think, would be able to support Mark and his effort there going forward. It would have maybe a little special loan program for our own employers here, small business particularly. Now, we've got to be real careful. We can't provide loans to every small business in Winston. We don't have that kind of resource, but maybe under certain special circumstances. I know Mark's been giving that some thought as well.
And Mayor, I just got to say, Jason Downtown Partnership has been an equal partner in that too. So we've been working behind the scenes and got some ideas, and hopefully in the coming weeks we can get it figured out and get a program put together. We're working hard on that and trying to figure out the best way. And resources are tight. A lot of our foundations and businesses that normally are major contributors, everybody's struggling right now, and so it's going to be a time where we truly try to live that tagline together and pull some opportunities to help each other.
Yep.
Where will people be able to hear more information about these loans? As that sounds like it's kind of just in the planning phase now, and I'm sure you guys are working as fast as you can to get it all bundled up and together. But I assume social media of Greater Winston-Salem Inc. and the Downtown Partnership will be the best place for people to find out when this is announced and the details around it. I'm sure that if there's a restaurateur or retailer on this call, they're on the edge of their seat wanting to know when they're going to be able to find out information about this.
Yeah, Aubrey, I'll try to chime in, and Jason and I can tell you that whenever this is done, we're going to put it everywhere that we can to try to help as many companies and small businesses as possible. We're really being thoughtful on the criteria and how can we do this, and getting a lot of key folks from all parts of our community to try to make it what really can help as many people and get it to the folks that are in need. And especially across the entire geographical footprint of Winston-Salem. So yes, social media, either websites. I know the city will partner with. We'll send it to you. Maybe your blog. Maybe your blog's a good part for that too. There's your plug.
We'd love to. I mean, I think a lot of our audience is people that care about downtown. So that'd be a great place, and we'd like to help get that word out any way we can. Now we're a little past the halfway point. Nick, you're muted if you want to unmute yourself, but we've got some questions flooding in here, and let's fire away and see if we can't get some of these questions answered for everybody that's on the call. And folks, just a quick reminder, the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen is the place to ask the question. If we don't get to it on this call, we will do our best to get these questions answered from the appropriate party and get it out to you. So,
yeah, great questions so far, everybody. So please keep them coming. We're going to try to spend 2 or 3 minutes on each one. There was a second part to Joseph's question here, which was how much of a lead time, and I guess maybe this is best suited for the mayor, how much of a lead time do you think small business owners are going to have between, the rollout of a reopening plan and the actual reopening itself? How much of a runway do you see there?
In fact, I just saw a preview of what the governor's going to be saying here. Looks like he's going to be like a 2-week kind of a ramp up time frame. I think he's going to lay out the schedule today about the various sequencing of openings. So I think small businesses and restaurants will have a clear idea on when they would be able to reopen. So probably 2 weeks to a month even in terms of ramp up.
And that's today at 3.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Look at that breaking news from the mayor. That's great.
We had.
where's the best place for people to watch Roy Cooper's announcement? Just on local news channels?
Well, it streams live, and certainly XII usually has it
Okay.
live. Their thing.
Okay.
We have somebody that's inquired about proper personal protective equipment, PPE, for retailers as they reopen. They'd like to work with a local group instead of ordering this stuff online, like, barriers, signs, masks, gloves, all that. Are there any local groups or, any organizations that y'all are affiliated with that these businesses can go to stock up on this PPE and reopening equipment?
Nick, I can jump in and take that one. On winstonsalem.com, we have on the COVID-19 page, we have a back to business section, and it talks about local companies that have and are selling or making PPE equipment right now. So to be able to help. The other thing is with maskthecity.com, as the mayor mentioned earlier, we're working with the Piedmont Triad Regional Council on a program to where businesses can get information on how to open safely, and then have some masks that can be provided to them as well. So that back to business, there's everything from workspace cleaning to mask orders and different things that you can purchase. Real quick, we've had 25 manufacturers in our community start trying to switch to making PPE for our healthcare and first responders, and now the entire community. We talk about different communities a lot. Charlotte, we've partnered with now. They saw what we were working on, and they've gotten involved, and we've got a good partnership with Charlotte in terms of helping get those PPE made. The mixer's another great example, making face shields and also some devices to help with masks on the back, so it's not hurting our healthcare and first responders' ears when they're wearing them for long periods of time. We've had Carolina Air Fabrics, Injury Mills, obviously Hanes Brands really led the way nationally and had a lot. Then, Broad Branch Distillery in New York Times for making hand sanitizer. Our innovation has been really showing through, and there's some local companies that you can get that information from.
Perfect. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
So let's see. I guess this is a question for all 5 of us, but what are we hearing from commercial landlords in terms of helping tenants get through this crisis? Is this something businesses should continue to handle individually? Is there anything y'all have heard specifically aside from PPP, EIDL, and the Main Street loans that are specifically targeted to helping tenants or landlords with relief. And I guess, well, Aubrey, it sounds like you're going to chime in with something.
Yeah, I might answer, just kind of get that rolling, because I know we probably got a lot of tenants and landlords on this call, and it's a tricky situation. I think landlords are getting a little bit smarter about the rent abatement or deferment or anything that they're willing to give to tenants. Some tenants have been asking for rent abatement or deferment that really don't need it or deserve it. They're open. People are, in some cases, still coming into work, listed as an essential business. Profit and loss statements haven't taken a hit. And, it's a tricky situation because you've got landlords who are somewhat stuck in the middle, because you've got landlords that need to make a principal and interest payment to the bank. They have operating expenses that they need to pay. And then you've got then you have tenants who are many are in a bad situation. They can't afford to pay rent, nor can they get approved for this PPP or EIDL loan. So it's a tough question to answer specifically, because I think it's across the board. Some landlords simply aren't able, because of the way their loan is structured, to give any rent relief to tenants. And some have been proactive. I heard of a landlord yesterday that across the board gave 30-day rent abatement to their tenants. Some needed it, some didn't. But he just went ahead and gave it anyway. And I've heard some that have just said they have commercial mortgage-backed security, CMBS loans on their property. And at the moment, there's just nothing they can do. Their hands are tied. They're not, in a position to put themselves into default with their lender to assist with the tenant. So it's a really tricky situation. And it's on a tenant by tenant, landlord by landlord basis. There are some resources for both tenants and landlords on our blog as well that I'd encourage people to look to. Nick, you've been on the phone with a whole bunch of landlords as well. What are you seeing?
Yeah, somebody ends up having to float the expense, and the order in which I've seen that sort of happen so far is landlords are going to their lenders. Their lenders are either deferring payments or flipping their payments to interest only to help with cash flow. And then, what the landlord's able to get from their lender, they're passing along to the tenant in the form of savings. Sometimes that's a meaningful amount. Sometimes it's just a drop in the bucket. Every tenant is very different. A dental practice, rent might make up 2% of their annual operating overhead, whereas a restaurant, rent might make up 8 to 20% of their annual operating overhead. So, I would say have that discussion with your landlord. If you don't know how to have that discussion with your landlord, have the discussion with your broker, because your broker can creatively come up with ideas and ways in which it can essentially be a win-win. I'm seeing a lot of tenants in this time of uncertainty extend their lease term, which is a win for the landlord, in exchange for a lot of short-term concessions. So there's definitely fair compromises for everybody involved. I don't know, Mark, Jason, Alan, if you guys have additional things you've heard or success stories that you've heard or anything you feel like would be relevant to that.
Yeah, I've heard, as you pointed out, it's been a negotiation by the tenant, and it starts going up the food chain to the landlord, to their lender. And I've heard some good examples of lenders helping out, and then those savings being passed directly to the tenant during this time frame. So I think you're spot on there in that scenario.
I think it's important for tenants just to know that the landlords are in the same situation that the tenants are in, and it's really important that they have an open line of communication between the two of them. And this is when lifelong relationships are made between landlords and tenants. This is really a good time for people to step up to the plate and do what they can to help each other, whether it's the tenant helping the landlord or the landlord helping the tenant.
Is there, does anybody know of a rent relief type option, maybe not even just restricted to the commercial tenants that might be on this call, but even residential tenants, Does anybody know where a list like that lives online that we could share? I heard of a tenant going to one of our brokers actually just texted us that said all his tenants, some of his tenants are working with the Red Cross for rent assistance. I know, there's Sunnyside Ministry. Does anybody know where that list might live that tenants can go to for any sort of rent assistance?
Sorry, I don't.
Okay, well, that'll be a follow-up to the webinar. Does anybody have any success stories that they've heard from businesses, whether, downtown, outside of downtown? I'll share one, that I saw firsthand, but I've noticed a lot of restaurants have shifted almost to more of like a grocery type model. So you can still support these, restaurants and go and not only get your carry out food, but get some supplies and light groceries. So I think that's a great way that they're pivoting. That was actually the porch. You can get pre-made margarita mix. Are there any success stories that y'all have seen either pivoting or ways businesses are coming together that you want to share?
I'd like to share, some of that is that one of the things that I've seen is online support. There's a number of groups that people are very communicative, and there's a lot of people that there's a close-knit community, and I can only speak for downtown, but downtown is a very close-knit community with a lot of the business owners having direct contact with one another, and that may not be the same in a different environment. It very well may be, but I know that they're very close, and that's probably fostered by a lot of our collective marketing campaigns, some of things like our restaurant roundtable. But one of the things that I hear that's awe-inspiring is people that I talk to are very supportive of one another. One of the things that I thought was incredible was the virtual village project that was publicized in the newspaper earlier this week. And we had people like Jim Moody from the West End Coffee House and Danielle Bull from Bull's Tavern. There are traveling musicians going through the neighborhoods who were clearly using social distancing measures on the back of a flatbed and entertaining people. And this is something that is keeping them strong. Another thing that I think has been very positive is just everybody's effort with using the Winston Strong hashtag and a lot of other numerous and private fundraising opportunities for specific employees and things, people like selling certain items, t-shirts, and just a lot of donations to groups and people with need. And so those are just constant. Those are some of the positive things that, plus just some of the tone of the voices of the people on the phone of the businesses, and just how strong and how much they've been through is, to me, moving. And I wanted to share that. I wanted to make sure that I got that out there today, that spirits are certainly being tested, but we have a strong group of people in our city from the business owners I've talked to.
And Nick, thank you, Jason. Let me jump in on that too. I'll Swipe By, a startup in Winston Starts that was all helping companies in restaurants specifically do curbside, have gone nationwide since this pandemic. They've also expanded to local retail to help facilitate that. Some other fun stories. Fleet Feet of Winston-Salem. I bought some shoes the other day, try to support local. And one of my hobbies in this work from home is going to walk or jog. And they did a virtual fitting via Zoom. And then you drive up and they load it in your trunk for you. And they have a guarantee when they're reopened to return the shoes. I mean, people are getting innovative in the retail restaurant space. We're seeing large companies that are still open as essential businesses, catering from our local restaurants to help support the local restaurant scene, as well as hope, provide a nice meal for their employees while they're working. Those have been kind of some of those stories, Jason, that you touched on too, but just kind of show the character and the strong nature of our community. They're a lot of fun. I do something kind of fun. I'm sorry to be such a cheese here, but I've got enough texts. Yes, I am drinking a sunshine. People are texting me about it. Sorry. I forgot I was on the camera the whole time. But we do that locally. The other day, I wore my Ramcat hat for all my Zoom calls and trying to just have some fun with some local products and help support our local community. something that a lot of people don't think about real quick, just supporting local. Don't forget about your local sports and local clubs and different things like the swimming gyms and Twin City Soccer and different places like that, you know, people are cooped up, ready to get back out there. These kind of groups are really important to our community, youth sports and different things, and try to support them as well.
Hey, where can people go to make donations to support small businesses in the community and in downtown specifically? That's a question that just rolled in that I think is really important for us to answer.
I would say, Jason, I'll say to be determined. That's part of the conversation that we're working on. I'll say as soon as that's ready, you know, Town Winston-Salem Partnership and Winston-Salem.com will have that on our sites. And we'll pump that out through all avenues. We really wanted specifically to support and be secondary to the COVID relief fund of Forsyth County that the city really helped lead. Mayor, thank you for your leadership there to help support those in need. Make sure people are eating, have shelter through the Winston-Salem Foundation United Way. So most of the support and effort went behind that, and so we're coming right behind it, trying to be a really good secondary option that we know our businesses need our help, and any kind of contribution would be amazing. You can do the gift cards through Jason's site. The Winston-Salem Journal has a gift card program that we help support as well, but we then also will be able to have an opportunity potentially to do donations for grants coming in the next few days, weeks, hopefully as soon as.
So your program will reach out to the community asking for donations in addition to reaching out to the community with these grants to support them, their small business.
That's the plan. Yeah,
Okay.
you know, anybody who's able and willing to help try to contribute, we'd love to have that support. Just be Winston strong, as we've talked about, and really come together and try to help each other.
We've had go ahead, Jason. Sorry.
Okay, one other thing that I would add is that on top of the businesses, we also have a lot of arts community in our city, and that's largely centered in downtown, and a lot of people give. And I would ask people if they have it in their capacity to consider if they make an annual gift, or if they would consider making an emergency gift above and beyond what they normally would do to their art community of choice. And all of them are in need, and we've talked about a lot of different institutions, and I wanted to talk about that briefly. And I know that all of them are working on different efforts, and the Arts Council and other people are going to be involved in and are involved on that. And then I did want to just leave just an update on some projects downtown also before we run out of time. Just some positive notes there.
Okay.
If I do that now?
Sure.
Okay, one of the things that somebody talked about this before, but I think one of the things that came across is, and I'll go through this briefly, but I wanted to touch base with a number of people regarding the status of different projects. And before all of this happened, the Nissen building had been for sale by HRI, and the sale price was an extremely healthy sales price. And that was listed publicly, and it was done by a Philadelphia company. And I thought that was a very strong indication of confidence of a large Philadelphia-based company who's made significant investment in the Reynolds building, in the new project 757 North, and bought this third building. And in a lot of ways, they do that because they have confidence in our market and the return on their investment. But they also do that having confidence in, if there was a reason to back out of a deal, you know, people may use this COVID crisis to do that. And I thought that was very positive. Some of the other things in our city, we've had on queue a number of projects that I wanted to make sure, and I touched base with our county manager and some other people. But as a lot of people may remember, the county courthouse, the bond issuance had passed for that. And that's a major project. And that project is still a go. While it's been certainly a lot of the project is in design, and a lot of that goes on during this time. And so that very large project, well over $100 million, is going to be something that's going to be hitting the overall construction market and impacting our economic development situation. I spoke with the people from Caladium, and good news that they have reached and gone past their target mark of $8 million, which was their goal, to ensure the county funding was available to them. And I think that's major positive news. Other projects and smaller projects, even projects on Trade Street during this time, we recruited a company, Cheesecakes by Alex, and they're still under construction. People are planning on a future. And that's something that I hear sometimes people, they need to take comfort in that we can get through this. One of the things, and the TDA, I was talking to Richard Geiger before taking this phone call, and I think Mark did a great job of touching on this, and they've been doing analysis by survey from their different groups. And they believe that mid-sized cities like Winston-Salem are well positioned to thrive once we get back to opening, once it's safe to reopen. People want to go somewhere, and safety is number one, but they want to be with their family. They want to go out to eat in restaurants, but they may not be ready to maybe get on a plane and go to a large city where there's a lot of density. And so I think that bodes well for North Carolina. And we expect to have our conventions here, hopefully in the fall. None of them have been canceled. And so we hope to have a very bright future, but we know that it's going to take some time. It's going to have to be safe, but I wanted to leave some positive benchmarks in the conversation about some things that are happening.
Thanks.
Jay, I'm sure you maybe didn't mention these on purpose, but the two large apartment projects are under construction downtown as well. They're the Grubbs Company in front of the former GMAC building right on 4th Street, and then another large one out adjacent to the BB&T ball field. So two big residential projects that are underway there.
And Mayor, I'll add, I know, Nick, there's a comment on there about proactive recruitment as well. So just to tie that together, if that's okay, real quick.
Sure.
Mayor, I heard today from Link Apartments, their occupancy is higher. They're still having people move in. So people are still looking to move at this time. From a recruitment standpoint, obviously, Greater Winston-Salem Inc. has really been focusing on our existing business right away, but continuing to talk projects. And there are a few that are still active that have kind of paused. We've had 2 new ones that have looked. We've got some great opportunities. You know, Whitaker Park is a prime space for growth and development, and Whitaker Park Authority doing a great job being ready. I think this is a time where a lot of our sites are really focused on continuing to push forward to be ready to go when projects come back. Specifically, we're hearing a lot about food processing, food distribution, as we've heard about in the news, and manufacturing and food processing coming back on shore. That's an opportunity that, quite frankly, we're good at here in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. We've got some prime space available in Union Cross, spec building ready to go. We've got sites, we've got downtown opportunities. So right now we're keeping our conversations going with our large list of site selectors, our state, staying in touch. Some projects are continuing to go, a lot are on hold, but we are going to be focused on those sectors. And, you know, I think we've seen the health tech, biotech, health labs start to really come forward through this. We have some of our own, such as Javara here in the community doing clinical trials. I think Innovation Quarter is prime for some growth through this, as this isn't going to be the last of COVID-19. And so I think we're primed and set up for utilizing Innovation Quarter for some growth in that sector as well. So hopefully that addressed that question from that end.
Yeah, one other project that's been under and keep chugging along is the Front Street Capital project right in the Bailey Power Plant. And that's, you know, getting closer and closer to completion.
So it's looking great down there for sure.
We have an overwhelming amount of questions, which is great. I'm going to leave the call open for a few minutes after we wrap up so that anybody who has a question and maybe hasn't submitted it yet can submit it. Our plan is to take any of the, so there are a lot of really great resources in the answered questions. There's, and that transcript will get sent out along with the recording of the call after we wrap up the call. And there's links in there with a bunch of different grant resources. And we're going to do our best to also circulate a blog post with answers to all the questions that we haven't had a chance to get to. So anybody who registered who's been on this call, you'll get a link to the recording, and we'll follow up with that, with answers to anything we weren't able to get to. and we really appreciate everybody's thoughtful questions.
Yeah,
So-
I second what Nick says here. Really appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy schedules to hop on this call. It's been very informative. I can't tell you how many text messages I've received over the last hour of people saying, thank you so much for putting this together. It's been extremely informative. Thank you guys. I know you guys are very busy. You're doing a great job staying positive and doing what you can to keep us all safe. We know you'll do the right thing, and we'll open the city when the time is right, Mayor. Our thoughts are with you as you make some important decisions.
Thank you.
I know you have to go at 3, but we will be back on May 6th at 2 p.m. with 3 great guests, Coleman Team, Simon Burgess, and one other to be announced. And with that, you guys, if you need to go, feel free to go, and Nick will leave it open, and we'll get all these questions out to everybody as soon as possible.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
A special thank you, Aubrey and Nick and your team, for putting this on. And it kind of fuels our tanks back up to see everybody care this much to join a call and fire away with questions and ideas. So thank you for that. We really appreciate being here.
Yeah, I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you.